Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle, once and for all.
Best SNL cast member, 1986 to 1990.
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcasts should have a theme song. Podcasts should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it. You know what? You're right. We got this.
Best SNL cast member, 1986 to 1990.
Hal, first of all, I love your Don Pardo impression.
Oh, thanks.
Two things about your Don Pardo impression. Ken specifically asked for the 19, and my brain went to, is anyone out there going to assume that SNL is not having its 50th, but its 150th anniversary? Featuring Beauregard T. Justice III.
The year was 86 BCE. 86 million BCE. Starring a cartoon by a Stegosaurus. And musical guest, Paul Simon.
Somehow he's still there. The other thing I love about that is just, this is a peek again behind the curtain. I love little peeks behind the curtain, is Hal's phrase to get into his Don Pardo impression is, Lorraine Newman.
It is.
That specific cast member out of the, how many 150 cast members there have been?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Lorraine Newman is the one that gets you to the voice.
Because of the journey you go saying it, because of the number of syllables, it's just Lorraine Newman. So
it's a lot of vowels.
The excitement of Lorraine, and then Newman was a little bit more, he would read it more straightforward. Lorraine Newman.
Lorraine is an exciting first name. Yeah. It's a herald of a first name. Lorraine
Newman.
But we're not talking about Lorraine Newman's cast today, Hal. We are jumping into the cast of Saturday Night Live from 1986 to 1990. This is about when I started watching. This is the first time I was really cognizant of SNL. And I was thinking about this earlier. I think I now remember. I remember last time I mentioned Lothar of the Hill People was the first sketch that I had heard of, like the name of it. But then I remembered the first sketch that I actually knew, and I knew quotes from, and my buddies on the playground were also quoting it. Can you guess what that was? It was from 1987.
1987?
1987. Oh, yeah, so I was 8 years old.
I was going to say The Church Lady, but that started in 1986. That was the first sketch of that first season, season 12.
Right after Madonna said the rest of the previous season was a fever dream or whatever.
It was all a dream, a horrible, horrible dream. Oh, man. I can't imagine. What was it? What was the...
Bunch of little Catholic school boys, age 8, on the playground. We are here to pump you up. That was the first one. Hans and Franz. We loved Hans and Franz. When you're 8, Hans and Franz is the funniest sketch of all time.
Oh, yeah, of course. With the mechanical pecs that would go up and down.
Oh, it's great. It's just pure silliness.
Yeah, listen to
That's
me now.
What this era was. There was a lot of pure silliness in this era.
Yeah, I mean, let's take a look at where we are in the history of Saturday Night Live, okay? Lorne Michaels does the first 5 years, then he leaves. He's replaced by Jean Doumanian, who was not ready to run the show. She leaves and she doesn't even finish her season, which is one of the worst seasons of all time. She is replaced by Dick Ebersol, who was there at the very beginning of the show. He brings in the era of Eddie Murphy. That happens under his watch. He does the superstar year of Martin Short and Harry Shearer's second time around on the show. Christopher Guest, Billy Crystal. And then Lorne comes back. There was talk of Billy Crystal being a permanent host. That does not happen. Instead, he decides he's going to go young, but also quirky. Like, he gets people who are good actors and who have done comedy, but are not like Randy Quaid, Joe Cusack.
They're not, they are. I feel like he went did he go to LA to get this cast? It feels like this is a LA hustling actors in dramas and sitcoms and television hospital shows and soap operas. This is just, this doesn't feel drawn from the sketch world. This whole cast feels drawn from the general television and film casting pool of young, I've done comedy actors of the era. Now you have some incredible actors in that cast. Like you said, you've got Randy Quaid in there. You've got Anthony Michael Hall. You've got Robert Downey Jr., one of my all-time favorites. But they just didn't gel. And that's why Madonna said that year was a horrible, horrible dream.
And she had also hosted the year before that year. She had hosted that season. We're there, that's outside of the purview, but just to set the table, they have come off of arguably the other worst season in the show's history, to the point that they didn't get a full order for the 1986-1987 season. I
did not know. I didn't know they got a
partial order. They were like, all right, you've got 13 episodes, somewhere between 10, 13 episodes, I think, to figure this out. And he decides, I'm going to almost go back entirely to the drawing board. Now that season, do you remember how the 1985 season ended?
No, I don't.
All of the cast are trapped in a room that is set on fire. And the question is, who's going to survive, with the exception of him going in to grab one cast member and save them, who you knew was going to be in the next season. Do you want to guess who that cast member was?
The cast member that got pulled from that previous season into the new one.
Yes.
I think there were only a few that were holdovers that made it through.
Yeah.
There were 3. It was Nora Dunn, John Lovitz, and I'm going to say John Lovitz. I don't remember who the third one was.
It was John Lovitz, who had already done Tommy Flanagan, The Liar. I think he had already done the Master Thespian as well. We hadn't gotten Baudelaire yet because I think Lithgow came in the next era, if I'm not mistaken.
Baudelaire, so funny.
Yeah, Dennis Miller was there at that point. So those 3 come over, and Lorne Michaels is like, I gotta start over. And instead of just casting talented actors, I'm going to build like a comedy cast. And so he grabs people from the Groundlings. He grabs people like Jan Hooks. He grabs Phil Hartman. Dana Carvey, just fills out and creates this killer cast. Kevin Nealon, who was a last-second addition, who was dating Jan Hooks, I believe, at the time, and was a stand-up and staying at a guest house on somebody's property. And then he gets the show as well and comes in. They have A. Whitney Brown, who really just did desk pieces. Yeah. But this is the cast. Had they not been assembled, had this group of people not been assembled, and had they not been a hit, we wouldn't be talking about the show anymore. It would be something that died after about 11 years. And that would have been as far as it went.
But this was a superlatively talented cast. I mean, I'm just looking at, Carvey, Dunn, Hartman, Hooks, Jackson, Lovitz, Miller, with Brown and Nealon as the featured players. Yes. And then it stays that way for a while. Mike Myers comes in season 14, and Al Franken pops in here and there. But outside of that, that's the crew for this period of time. We're dealing with that core cast plus the addition of Mike Myers. Why don't we talk about Mike Myers first? And then we will talk about that core cast. Mike Myers came in late to this group, was sort of a bridge between this time and the next great era of casts. Brings in Wayne's World in 1989, coming in hot. Gets Dana Carvey by his side.
They were like a 10-to-1 sketch originally that was put in this deep corner. So the way Studio 8H is set up is you're sitting looking at home base where the band is, where they set up a lot of sets, but that's where they do Weekend Update. All like the hottest bits go there. You're playing right to the audience. If you're looking at the stage, to the left of that in the back is a corner where everything goes to die. Like it just, the sound doesn't travel as well. You don't get the same laughs. That is they all have, there are horrendous nicknames for that area of the stage, and that is where Wayne's World was. But it did well enough that eventually they moved to home base.
I mean, and then they moved to multiplexes across the country.
Twice.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Mike Myers is one of those blockbuster Saturday Night Live guys to translate what he did in Studio 8H into the wider world of entertainment.
He is. And I think you nailed something the last time we talked about him. Which is, as talented as he is, it feels like he is in a show within the show that is all his stuff. So he's doing Wayne's World, which they bring Dana Carvey into, and that helped a lot. He was doing Simon, the one who did Droll Rings, who's the bathtub cheeky monkey. He's doing Sprockets, but it's all of his stuff is.
It's the Mike Myers show.
it's the Mike Myers show. And even now, like watching him, when I see him coming back because he's playing Elon Musk right now, it's weird to see him because it's like, I don't think of him as being part of those casts, even though he was. I think of him by himself, and he's very talented and very funny. But it is like he was made to be the star of his own show. And for that reason, it's like in a different way than Dana Carvey, who was the star of that era, unquestionably.
But that's because Dana Carvey made everyone around him look better by design. Like that was his job. That was his function. That's what he did for Mike Myers in Wayne's World. Yeah. So all due respect to Mike Myers, you're a great performer, man. Austin Powers, those movies are hilarious. Sure. But
two of them are.
We're talking about a sketch comedy cast. We are talking about a team of people that come together and work together to create a show. So I think we have to eliminate Mike Myers right off the bat.
What do you think of Kevin Nealon? He's such an interesting guy because he comes from stand-up, and he is like he has a dry sense of humor just to hear him do stand-up, and he brings that into Subliminal Guy, who was really funny. He worked on a Sam Donaldson impression. He did Hans and Franz is probably his biggest character stuff that he did.
Yeah, the broadest character.
Yeah, how do you think of him? And also, he did he was Tarzan in the Tarzan, Tonto, and Frankenstein pieces.
That's true. I feel like, look, I like Kevin Nealon. I've seen Kevin Nealon do stand-up in L.A. live, and he's very, very funny. For me, though, it feels like Kevin Nealon is more game than superlatively talented. You know what I mean? Like, the thing that Kevin Nealon brings to it is he's game. He can do his dry delivery of whatever the writers give him. I bet the writers loved Kevin Nealon because he didn't put a lot of spin on the ball. The ball was the ball that the writer gave him, was the ball that Kevin Nealon delivered.
Yeah, and he could play straight man. Not everybody is good at that. You know who's really good? We'll talk about him later when he comes up. But someone who I think is, because he was such a character guy, you don't realize how good of a straight man he was, is Chris Kattan. He was really good at serving a scene if you put him in it, and he wasn't doing Peepers or Mango or anything big like that. He really was good at just serving scenes as an actor. And that's something that Kevin Nealon is good at. Kevin Nealon suffers in this one just because he's in the same cast as Phil Hartman, who is the ultimate, perfect straight man, plays characters well, great impressions.
But Kevin Nealon did have a stint behind the desk at Weekend Update, but that's not within the purview of this episode, right? That is outside of this episode. So we can't look at Kevin Nealon's Weekend Update time, which I actually really loved. I loved his dryness. I thought that worked. I mean, Weekend Update is a showcase for the writers. So just give it to Kevin Nealon, and his timing is perfect. He just doesn't, like, the things he does well, he does so well. He just doesn't do a ton of things. He's got 2 pitches.
Right, but they're really good. He's a good,
but they're really good pitches.
If you have 2 good pitches, you're going to strike a lot of people out. That's
exactly
the way it is.
Yeah.
What about Dennis Miller? He was the main Weekend Update guy.
Yeah.
For all of this time.
It's so tough with Dennis Miller because of nowadays. You know what I mean?
Maybe has not aged as well artistically as you would like. I will say though, he did give the show like a cool factor when he was there.
Yeah.
He was cool, smart, and he never played down. So he made Weekend Update a really smart thing. I think he kind of revitalized that piece and made it cool again. So you had a lot of people doing it, like Christopher Guest doing it wasn't necessarily cool.
But Christopher Guest has only ever been cool to a certain segment of the population. But to that segment of the population, Christopher Guest has always been cool. But outside 100%. Of that segment, Christopher Guest, you see Christopher Guest walk into a really cool barbershop, you're like, he's not going to walk out with the cool haircut.
You want something that is at the front of the catalog.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, no. I don't want the hair catalog, please. May I have that? The Wall Street Journal over there. Thank you. I'll take that.
Exactly. So I think he did give the show a little bit of an edge. So did a lot of the writers they brought in during that time. Conan
he was
O'Brien
the snarkiest, the smarmiest. That edge came from, I guess they didn't really have that sort of smirk for a while.
I mean, Chevy had
the smirk.
I think Bill Murray always brought a level of cool to things because he makes everything look so easy. even if it's not for him. I mean, just watch him, even the 50th, doing one of his pull away lists of the top anchors of all time. There is like a breeziness to him that makes him seem cool. There's something to Dennis Miller of like at his best where he makes you feel smart along with him. And just the rhythm of what he says, that like, it's like, it doesn't matter what he says as much. Like you're going to get it. Even if there's a reference you don't get, you're probably still going to laugh at it because you understand what he's trying to say. And that's a real skill.
I don't even know if you understand what he's trying to say or if you just understand the implied agreement of cadence that he has given you. Then you know to laugh right there. You know what I mean?
100%. Not the best cast member.
No, because he did one thing really well, which was Weekend Update. I think I saw him in a couple of sketches here and there where he would have one sort of stiffly delivered line.
Right. But he wasn't there to be in the sketches as much.
No, he was there to swing it around and be the swagger on Weekend Update.
100%. 100%. Victoria Jackson.
You know, it's funny. I knew you were going to go with her next after we mentioned Dennis Miller.
Yeah.
Because they're both kind of in that pool now of considering which side of the political rainbow we're on right now.
You know, even beyond that, I'm sort of just climbing the ladder. And I think the thing about Victoria Jackson, first of all, to make it onto that show, whether you're there for as long, she was there for a good amount of time. I think like 6-7 years, something like that. She was there for a long time. And whether you're there for that long or whether you're there for 6 weeks, you're very good at what you do. To make it into that cast, you're very good at what you do, even if the show ultimately isn't a fit for you. That's why so many people go on to do really good things, even though they didn't last forever on the show. She was one of those people that I think was okay. And she had stuff that hit sometimes, but she was really a utility player. And it feels like that was more just like, she's very talented, but doesn't do a whole ton of characters. Her Roseanne was good, but not a ton of impressions.
No.
And so she would come in and do her Victoria Jackson thing. And it was fine and good. And she fits. The show would not have been the same without her. She did importance. She did the one with the people who have extra fingers. Where she slammed, like, she's a great piece of business in that where she tries to, like, you've tried slamming them off. She tries to slam them in a drawer and she does this, like this cross-eyed face. That's like very,
gosh. And then there's like it's like, what's that? It's like some gangrene nail polish that they put on them and your extra fingers fall off.
The fingers rot off. Yeah.
Oh, God. Here's the thing that I really like about Victoria Jackson, and the thing I really respect about her as a performer. I think that her superpower was, I mean, obviously she played dumb really, really well. That was her thing, was playing dumb. And you always wondered with her, like as an audience, you're wondering whether or not she's in on the joke. Like, is she in on all of the bits that she's doing when I know she 100% is? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's this sort of earnest dumb to her that is completely put on because you know she's smart and understands comedy and timing and what these scenes are. But yeah, I look at, and I know this is a weird one to look at because it's not really her sketch, but I think one sketch that she is absolutely perfect in is the original Toonces the Driving Cat sketch.
I swear we're on a wavelength today because that was exactly what I was thinking. Is that sketch would not have been as good with anybody else playing that part.
Because she never lets you know that she's in on the joke in that sketch. She plays that sketch so earnestly and so perfectly, but with her dumb comic timing, that sketch would not work without Victoria Jackson. It's 100%. So funny. Toonces the cat who could drive a car, but not very well is the dumbest. And I think they did in that original version, there were a couple of the song breaks. It was like 3 1-minute episodes of this sitcom and she's playing it completely straight. And she's so funny.
Oh, yeah. It's weird because you know the joke of Toonces if you watched it when it was happening. The joke being, for those of you who have not seen it, that the cat crashes the car every single time. It always
not just crashes, it goes over a cliff. Yeah.
Exact same footage every time, however many times they did. But the first one is, I think Steve Martin was the host, is like, Martin. Toonces learned how to drive a car. And then they go out, They crash. They're sitting by the roadside. Toonces takes off, and we get the joke of they don't do it very well. And then I think it's the next week on Toonces. Toonces is taking his driver's test and crashes the car again.
Yeah, with Kevin Nealon administering the driver's test.
Also, like, it's the perfect guy to do that part.
Toonces is such a, like, look, can Toonces be the best cast member from this era? Played by two different performers. One, a puppeteer for the sketches, and one, an actual cat for the pre-recorded intros. It's so, I feel like that is a perfect embodiment of this era. That and the church lady.
Yeah.
Like, the satire is not hard hitting, but it's there and it's leaning into the silly.
Yeah.
If the hard satire is done by Dennis Miller, it's almost like the hard satire and the purely silly sketch comedy are very separated at this time.
Part of why this era is so great is, first of all, it's starting in 86, means you have 2 years to build up the cast and get to know them before you have to go into an election year, which is really important because then they have to pick up the political stuff a lot more then.
True.
And I think, like you pointed out, the balance of there's something smart, there's a ton of silly. It just is a very well-balanced group. And when we come back from our break, we're going to talk about, I think we basically have 5 people left to talk about. And I think the 5 of them would be the real contenders in this era. So we'll talk about them when we're back. But first, listen to this.
Dr. Game Show is a podcast where we play games submitted by listeners with callers from all around the world. And this is a game to get you to listen. Name 3 reasons to listen to Dr. Game Show. Kyla and Lunar from Freedom, Maine.
Dishes, folding the laundry, doing cat grooming.
Okay, thank you. Great.
Oh, things you could do while listening. Yeah.
I love that I'm like, why do you listen to this show? And Lunar's like, dishes. Fantastic. Manolo.
Number 1 is that it will inspire you. You're going to be like, oh, I could do that.
That's all we have time for, but you'll just have to find Dr. Game Show on Maximum Fun to find out for yourself.
Say you like video games, and who doesn't?
I mean, some people probably don't.
Okay, but a lot of people do. So say you're one of those people, and you feel like you don't really have anyone to talk to about the games that you like.
Well, you should get some better friends.
Okay, yes, you could get some better friends, but you could also listen to Triple Click, a weekly podcast about video games hosted by me, Kirk Hamilton.
Me, Maddie Myers.
And me, Jason Schreier. We talk about new releases, old classics, industry news, and whatever, really.
We'll show you new things to love about games, and maybe even help you find new friends to talk to about them.
Triple Click. It's kind of like we're your friends. Find us at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, let's talk about those contenders, Hal.
Okay, who do you want to start with?
Who is, give us the list.
We got Hartman, we got Carvey, we've got Lovitz, we've got Dunn, and we've got Hooks.
Let's talk, I'm going to pair them together. Let's go Lovitz and Dunn because they left around the same time. They came in at the same time. They left at the same time.
Yep.
We'll talk about those 2 next. John Lovitz, like I've never seen someone play Put Upon better than John Lovitz. John Lovitz is the Job of SNL.
Yes. He's the high status guy who's actually low status.
Yeah. And the way, like, even on Dennis Miller's last episode, when John Lovitz had basically been fired for going to do a movie, Lorne Michaels is cracking jokes about John Lovitz hanging around the set. Like, man, go do another movie or something. Jeez, why are you always hanging around? It's like, they're just so mean to Lovitz, but it never shakes his superlative confidence.
Yes, and he's really great at his delivery is so good. Like, he's such a killer. Even, again, going back to the 50th anniversary, he's in it for like 10 seconds and he hits a home run with he's in the American Girl. Like, I'm not mad. I just want to know why. Like and really in that horrible year, he was the biggest bright spot because of Tommy Flanagan, because of that's the ticket. That became a huge hit. And so him bringing that over and then having other pals from the Groundlings like Phil Hartman there, who was a close friend of his, it was like they built a better cast around him. And then eventually he was no longer the star, but everything he did there he had just had hit after hit. The Master Thespian stuff was really funny, especially with John Lithgow as Bono.
Oh, yeah.
And the Losers that he would do with Tom Hanks.
With Tom Hanks. Oh, yeah. Hello and goodbye.
Goodbye. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that he, in the history of SNL, for people who aren't, I think people who are familiar know, but people who aren't don't realize that he's one of the reasons why probably the show even came back at all, because there was a spark there.
He's so funny, and he was always been one of my favorites from SNL and then from movies. I loved him in City Slickers 2. I loved him in City Slickers 2 as Billy Crystal's brother. Yeah, he's brilliant in it. I think for me, the thing that I love about Jon Lovitz is he wears his heart on his sleeve. Mm-hmm. You always know where his heart is, and his heart frequently is somewhere very weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he has a point of view and something he is trying to accomplish or, impart, and he's doing it passionately, but it's frequently the weirdest thing.
Yeah, and Jon Lovitz, the performer, is brimming with confidence.
Yeah.
There's a confidence to everything that he does, even when he's playing people who lack confidence.
Yeah.
And so that helps because he's so sure of what he's doing that you're going to be, you don't have to, you never think he's judging what he's doing. And that is a big deal. The Tales of Ribaldry that he would do.
Oh, God. Tales of Ribaldry was one of my favorites. Yeah. Yeah. Just bawdy old, like, Harlequin romance novels. Just him sitting and reading them with the audience. Oh.
Yeah. I do think he is a finalist.
Yeah. I think Lovitz is definitely up there.
Nora Dunn is, we think about the era of Maya Rudolph, Anna Gasteyer, Sherry O'Terry, Molly Shannon, into Kristen Wiig and Amy Poehler and Tina Fey. This incredible era for women.
Yeah.
Victoria Jackson also, but Nora Dunn and Jan Hooks.
The Sweeney Sisters.
The Sweeney Sisters. It's like Nora Dunn. She was already doing Pat Stevens that first year, which was really funny. She was already funny and really good in sketches. But then when Jan Hooks showed up, it was like she had her sparring partner.
Yeah.
And I think the two of them are among the best SNL cast members of all time, full stop. And you don't need to qualify it one way or another. But I do know, there have been eras where women were maybe marginalized or didn't have as large a share of voice. And the three of them, but the two of them were just bigger stars and maybe a little more facile as sketch performers.
Yeah.
They were Nora Dunn is an outstanding cast member. She's pretty much flawless in everything she did. That's a big deal.
Yeah. I love Nora Dunn. I think looking at the two of them together, Nora Dunn and Jan Hooks, I feel for me personally, when I was watching, it felt like, and when I go back and look at them now, it feels like I personally like Jan Hooks as a character performer better, but I feel like Nora Dunn has more to say and more sharply. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nora Dunn felt more like the adult in the room.
Yeah,
all the time.
She felt like the Jane Curtin. She was filling the Jane Curtin role.
Yes,
of the adult in the room.
She carried that energy,
which I appreciated a little more silly. But I did. I mean, there's no denying that Nora Dunn, in addition to being a great performer on the show, stood by her principles too, and left when she did.
Oh yeah, when Andrew Dice Clay hosted, she didn't show up. Yeah, she was already. That was her cue to sort of take off.
Yeah, she took off that one show, got the hint to leave, and was like, okay.
I think I want to segue into Jan Hooks here and say, I think obviously the original cast, you had Lorraine, Jane, and Gilda. Very
amazing
different,
trio.
All great. Incredible to have those three women on that show at the same time. Important to have those three women on the show at the same time. Gilda was obviously very special. Anybody who was involved in the show or around it would tell you that. And that energy didn't exist on the show. In terms of just the breadth and depth and what she brought to the show as sort of like kind of a lead, in my opinion. And you didn't get that again until Jan Hooks. And I'm not saying they're the same at all, but Jan Hooks, like the range that she showed and how essential she was to that era, to the fact that even after she left, she kept coming back. And to the end, obviously tragically died way too soon. Succumbed to alcoholism and complications from that, which is terrible. If you're in that situation, please get help, for goodness sakes, please. But man, to the end, anytime she showed up in something, just the character that she brought to it and the personality, she breathed life into things. And she did that on SNL.
And she always made me feel like I was in good hands. That was something in comedy that we learned really early that I really appreciated from Second City was the first things that you have to do is let the audience know that they're in good hands.
Right.
Then an audience will relax and feel comfortable laughing. And Jan Hooks always made me feel like I was in good hands. She was like, don't worry. She walked onto the stage with a confidence that said, don't worry, everybody. This is going to be very, very funny.
Yep.
And sometimes very touching and very heartbreaking in her dance with Phil Hartman.
Oh, the Life is a Dream or Love is a Dream. Yeah.
But generally this is tough. Nora Dunn and Jan Hooks. I feel like all three of them so far are finalists is the problem.
Yeah. Now let's make it even harder by throwing Phil Hartman on top of that. Phil Hartman, who has already won an episode of this, could conceivably do it again, comes in and he's the glue, obviously.
Mm-hmm. They called him that.
His earlier stuff of the anal retentive fisherman and the anal retentive carpenter, the anal retentive chef was a really fun, again, like something
so
really
good.
only he could pull off. If you look at the 150 plus people who have been on SNL, none of them could do that the way that he did. Just
the patience. Nobody else had the patience.
Yes. He gave them their new Dan Aykroyd in terms of being like the scientist, the game show host, somebody who could do a bunch of different impressions. There's a reason why he is revered by people who do comedy and people who watch it. He's just one of the best to do it. Could have done it on any show you put him on. But that was the best vehicle for his talents outside of his ability to paint album covers, which is what he did for a long time professionally.
I love Phil Hartman, and I know that Phil Hartman won our previous episode about the beginning of the 90s. But this is an era where Phil Hartman did something I thought was really cool, and it was early Phil Hartman on the show, where normally I don't think of Phil Hartman as having sketches that are particularly political. You know what I mean? His Bill Clinton was absolutely brilliant, but his Bill Clinton was mostly silly. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the fact that he was there for a president, a gap of a whole other president, and then yet another president after that. Because I want to go back to a pretty scathing Reagan that he did. You don't ever really think of Phil Hartman as being a scathing satirist, but his super gentle and as soon as the kids leave, back to work, Reagan is really, really fun. It's funny. It's over the top. It's got some bite to it.
Yeah, that is a really great sketch. Great early political sketch.
Yeah.
By that group. He was a really good Reagan. And then, of course, one of the few times when another host comes in, Robin Williams, and plays Reagan in the bit where they have the earpiece in and he keeps getting 1 Adam 12, 1 Adam 12, because there's interference, which allows him to be Robin Williams.
Yeah, just play as Robin Williams for a while.
Yeah, I mean, Phil Hartman's one of the greats. Him not winning this episode is no reflection of that or any of these people.
But I think once he got to really be the elder statesman of the show, where Lorne knew that he could literally do anything, it was that second era when he was the senior member of the cast and just carrying, I don't want to say carrying, when he was a senior member of the cast and really guiding and leading the show and being a real leader in terms of what he was doing in sketches, both in the foreground and the background. A lot of that happened in the second big cast change that he was in. But within that first cast that he was in, I think I know who you're about to talk about. And what were you about to say, Hal?
Well, before I get to the last person, one of my favorite Phil Hartman sketches is the first Tonto, Frankenstein, and Tarzan sketch, because it's not, they got to the point where they were just singing like Little Drummer Boy or whatever. They're doing like Christmas greetings. But the first one was like a McLaughlin Group Crossfire type talk show, where it was the three of them discussing topics, and then each of them had less to say, and then the last one was fire. I think Nora Dunn might have been there as the host, and she has them as her guests, which, again, makes perfect sense, because who better to set that up than Nora Dunn?
The grown-up in the room.
But watching Phil Hartman, who very rarely break, he didn't break in the first Matt Foley, everybody else did, but he broke before he went fire bad, just because I think it struck him. It seemed to strike him at the moment how like ridiculously fun and stupid the idea was that they were carrying out. And then of course he breaks through the wall, but him trying to maintain his composure while saying fire bad over and over again I treasure that memory.
Yeah.
But moving on from Phil Hartman.
Yeah.
I truly believe the show probably, I don't know how far it would have gone without Dana Carvey there, because he came in a star and then became a bigger star to the point where like anything he did would hit, but he earned that by having a bunch of hits, opening with the church lady, having that be the cold open of your first SNL. And then in that same episode doing Chopping Broccoli, which feels like, I feel like people think it's a runner, but he only did it once. It was from his stand up and that he did in the audition. And they put it in the first show. Everybody's impression of George H.W. Bush is his impression of George H.W. Bush. Anybody who does a McLaughlin Group impression, it's his impression of the host of the McLaughlin Group. Like, he created a pop culture standard from his work on that show. Wayne's World would not have been a hit without him being in there. That was probably one of the smartest suggestions. Lauren's like, maybe find something for Dana in there. And so, like Mike Myers owes a great deal of his success to Dana Carvey, which I think they figured out over time. I know they had a time where they maybe didn't get along as well, but that has passed as they've gotten older. And I just like Dana Carvey he's like the gold standard of an SNL cast member and the undisputed star of his time on the show.
It really is. It's impossible, I think. These are all finalists, but I think it's impossible to pick anybody but Dana Carvey in this. I mean, everything he did was so fun, and all the different compliments that I have given about each of the other performers make you feel like you're in good hands from the first second. Wear his heart on his sleeve. Be able to play everyone. Dana Carvey could do that. He played absolutely... Garth was a sideman with very few lines, but he made the absolute most out of it, and it lifted that whole sketch up. I look at the church lady. Here's the thing that I love about Dana Carvey, and it will come in the form of just an anecdote about the church lady. The fact that the church lady is based on real people in his life from when he was a kid, and the Carvey family I'm sure you've heard this story, would skip church maybe a couple of weeks. And then when they would show up at church, after missing a few, there were always the church ladies out in front who would, well, isn't that special? Look who's decided to come back to church. That super passive aggressive, very passive, but very aggressive character. He took this thing that was from his formative years as a kid, crafted it into a hilarious point of view with a physicality and a signature costume, and then took that point of view so far as to create a running SNL sketch where she had her own talk show and interviewed celebrities and really dug into their toughest moments, like would dig into a celebrity's worst moment with them on the stage. That to me perfectly I feel like that is every comedy actor's dream. You know what I mean? Take something personal, craft a whole physicality and point of view around it, get it in front of millions of people, have it become a huge success, and then use it to just knock the people on the top rungs down a peg. It's perfect. The church lady is perfect.
Yep. I think that's why people of the world, you might be saying to yourself, picking Dana Carvey as the best cast member. Well, isn't that convenient? But there's a good reason why we picked it. Some other influence, of course. I don't know, Mark. Who could it be? Who could it be that would make us pick Dana Carvey as the best cast member?
I don't know. Who could it be?
Could it be Satan? Nathan. Nope. It's just because he's the best cast member of that period. Full stop. 1986 to 1990, nobody did it better than Dana Carvey, and he had competition. And fortunately, they weren't competing in that way. They were competing in the normal, we're all on SNL trying to get on the airway, because they all work together so beautifully. What a great group of dance partners, a small cast that could do a million different things and revived the show, along with a great cast of like all the writers who came in also during that period helped to bring the show back as well. But you can't do it without that cast, and you can't have that cast without Dana Carvey asked and answered.
Amen. Yeah. You know what I say to that, Hal? Swing! I don't know why. This topic is closed, but there are many more topics to discuss. So please reach out to us via email at wegotThisPodcast@gmail.com, or
Find us all over the social media. We're at Blue Sky. We're at We Got This Podcast. We are also We Got This Podcast on YouTube. You should go to our YouTube channel. You have all the episodes there, plus live streams we've done, extra video content that goes all the way back to the birth of our show. It's all happening over on YouTube, and it's also happening on Instagram, Instagram.com/We Got This Show. And finally, the Facebook group is still there. It is still populated by wonderful people. We have tried to move to a different platform. So we are now on Discord as well. Go to bit.ly/WGT Discord, all lowercase, and you will find our Discord there, which Mark has joined as of today.
I did it today, Hal.
What do you think of it, Mark? As somebody who's just shown up to the We Got This Discord, how are you finding it so far?
So far, I really haven't dug around much, but my first thought was, oh, this seems fun.
There you go.
You know what I mean? It looks fun. That's the main thing I would say about it. Like, some of the social media things look overwhelming. Some of the social media things look comprehensive. Discord just looks fun. So I'm excited to jump in and start playing around.
There you go. Mark Gagliardi says, fun. Thank you to producer. Thank you to producer Ken Plume, researcher Kate McManus, and graphic designer Uri Kelman. And don't forget QA engineer Jen Alba. Please don't you forget about Jen.
Don't you forget about our musicians, Jonathan Dinerstein and Mike Furman, who wrote our score and theme song respectively. And don't you forget about you, people of the world. Because we do this show every week because of you, because you're listening, because you seem to enjoy us goofing around with one another and sometimes trying to give a little bit of insight into the comedy world that we love so much. You give us a chance to talk about things that we're really passionate about. Yeah, we couldn't do it without you. We wouldn't do it without you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
For Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin. And don't worry, everybody.
We got this.
We got this.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows
supported directly
by you.